Greetings, friends. I'm AK.
And I'm Laura.
And we are
the Chainsaw Girls. We have some very exciting news. We are hosting our very first live watch-along of
The Lost Boys.
Okay, we're both super excited for this. It is taking place on October 20th at the Screening Room in Buffalo, New York. Tickets are $30. And we will be doing a Q&A. We'll be introducing the movie. We'll be hanging out with everybody, walking around. It's just going to be really fun.
I cannot wait.
I honestly, I'm just counting down the days. Obviously, I'm excited for Halloween, but I'm really excited for the watch along.
Yes. October is my favorite month of the year. I love spooky season, and this has just been the cherry on top. It's going to be the cherry on top, and I cannot wait to hang out with all of you. We both cannot wait.
We're jazzed. So, yeah. Okay, so do you want to get into the episode?
We have to.
Hell yeah. Okay. On today's episode, we are covering one of, hands down, my favorite movies of all time. Would you say it's one of your favorites?
It's definitely up there, but I can't compare to you. I know that you have the knowledge of this movie that I did not possess before having conversations with you about it. So I can't compare my fandom to yours, but it is definitely up there.
I'm so excited. This is definitely one of my comfort movies. I guess we haven't even said what it is.
No, we haven't.
It is 1996, Wes Craven's Scream.
I mean, if you read the title of this episode, you probably already know what it is, but just in case you're binging and you don't even know what we're talking about yet. Yes, Scream, the first one. I have to say, I just have to get this out of the way right away because I'm going to try not to even mention it too much throughout this episode because I don't want to be annoying about it. But I have to say, it is very difficult for me to watch this movie and not think about the first Scary Movie the entire time because Scary Movie spoofs Scream almost scene for scene throughout the entire movie. And anyone who knows me knows how much I love Scary Movie 1 and 2, the ones that involve the Wayans brothers.
I've only seen Scary Movie maybe once or twice.
We need to watch it together.
Okay, definitely. I don't remember much of it, but I do remember the Take My Good Hand.
Oh, Take My Strong Hand.
Oh, yeah,
That's
strong
the second
hand.
one.
That one I recall.
So the first one, almost scene for scene, spoofs Scream.
Wow. I would be down to watch it.
It's so funny. And I'm trying really, really hard to not say the alternate version of each scene of Scream. In Scary Movie, they do this. I'm not going to do that because it's going to be really annoying. But just know that I'm thinking about it, and just know that any scene we're talking about in the movie Scream, I would be able to tell you the Scary Movie version just at the drop of a hat.
I don't know if I want to watch it.
You think it's going to ruin it for you?
I think it is going to irritate me because I love this movie so much.
Probably.
But also maybe I would find it funny.
Maybe a little bit of both.
I think both. Because
Yeah.
I remember liking it at the time.
Yes. I love it a little too much. And I understand if you don't. And I understand if you're judging me for loving that movie. It's okay. I don't care.
No judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. We can like whatever the hell we want to
Yeah,
like.
you're right.
Okay? Everyone can. Okay, shall I read the IMDb description?
Yes.
A year after the murder of her mother, a teenage girl is terrorized by a masked killer who targets her and her friends by using scary movies as part of a deadly game. Pretty much sums it up.
Yep. Good summary.
We had a budget of $15 million, and it grossed $173 million at the box office.
Whew.
Is that not crazy? Not only that, in December of 1996, Jerry Maguire was released, which I believe won an Oscar.
Probably.
Beavis and Butthead Do America, which I love Beavis
Also,
and Butthead.
won an Oscar? No, I don't think
Probably
so.
not, but it should have because it was great. And Mars Attacks.
I love Mars Attacks.
You know, I would totally cover Mars Attacks.
I want to do a cosplay as the girl, the alien girl, or the alien that's cosplaying as a girl.
Whoa, we should do it. I don't know if I would cosplay, but I would definitely cover the episode.
Oh, okay.
I think it'd be fun.
I'll cosplay while we're covering the episode.
And the reason I bring up that it went against Jerry Maguire is because it was such a high-grossing movie, and Scream also was incredibly high. What am I trying to say?
Grossing?
Grossing is the word, yeah.
On top of that, not only did this movie do well, because you hear about movies doing well all the time, right?
Yeah.
But it also reinvented this genre.
Absolutely. During a time when, horror movies weren't really popular during that time in the 90s. And it was such a unique take on the horror genre.
Right, because it kind of introduced us to what would become very popular, which is like the meta version, right?
Yes, exactly. And I think it's really important to point out it was directed by Wes Craven, who we love, A Nightmare on Elm Street, obviously, among many other amazing movies. But in New Nightmare, Wes Craven played with the meta, the idea of meta. And I think it's really cool that it was in that. And also, it's so obviously Scream is a meta movie. And I just love that they were both like that Wes Craven had a hand in both of those. It was written by Kevin Williamson, who is one of the creators, writers of one of my favorite shows. You guys can judge me. I don't care. The Vampire Diaries. I love Kevin Williamson. I think he's amazing. In fact, the character, the bunny, I used some of Catherine, who's a character on the show. And actually, that picture up there is of Catherine.
Oh, from Vampire Diaries?
Yes.
Okay.
I used her as inspiration.
Nice. I'm not familiar with... Oh, yeah, The Mask. I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not familiar with the show.
I love it. The first 4 seasons when Kevin Williamson is involved, I love it. And he was co-written with Julie Plec.
Okay.
Who does tie in to the Screamverse, which we'll get to. So it's very exciting. Lots of incredible people involved in this movie.
Yes. One thing I did notice in your notes that made me very excited, and this is the last I'm going to speak of it, I swear, maybe, is that the original title of Scream, I did not know this until I read all of your trivia. The original title of Scream was Scary Movie.
Yes. Really neat, right?
Yes. That made me very happy.
I love that. And a little backstory about how Scream came to be and Kevin Williamson's concept and everything like that. The opening scene, he actually wrote that, I believe, in college as a one-act play. Loosely, not exactly the same, but loosely. He had written that many years prior.
Yeah, I could see that being its own short film.
1,000,000% yes. And then he was house sitting, okay? His friend's house. He was house sitting and he was watching 2020 or Dateline, something like that. And it was covering the Gainesville murders. Mm-hmm. And he was alone. And he said it was so creepy. He went upstairs and a window was open. And he was like, was that window already open? Was that door closed? And he called his friend and had his friend stay on the phone with him while he went through the house to make sure there wasn't a killer in the house.
That is terrifying to me.
So scary, but it makes sense how that would inspire him to eventually write Scream.
Can I tell you, anytime I have to have anyone come to my house, any type of service person, if they're going to work on the furnace, if they're going to work, whatever it is, I always have to go wherever they were in my house, usually downstairs where the furnace room is, and I will check every window downstairs to make sure they didn't crack a window open. I know that sounds a little crazy, but I've heard too many true crime cases and watched too many horror movies, and I don't think I don't want to say you can't be too paranoid because you can. You don't want to live a paranoid life, but
of course,
I just feel like I have to do it for my peace of mind because you just never know.
No, I mean, I'm very weird about anyone coming into the house, handyman or otherwise. If I'm alone, I always make sure that the blade is home.
Yeah, I dread it. I don't have a blade at home, so I mean, I have literal blades.
I'm I think you've got a couple blades.
I have literal blades. I think I've said it before on this podcast that I have a machete and that I sleep with under my bed.
I love that.
It's not just a gimmick.
No, it shouldn't be. I used to sleep with a sword under my bed, so I totally get it. Okay, I have a question for you. Do you remember the first time that you saw Scream?
I don't remember the exact time, but I know I was, I don't think I saw it when it first came out. I couldn't have because it was 1996.
It was.
And I wasn't really allowed to watch horror movies then. So it had to have been older. What about you?
I didn't see it in theaters because obviously I was too young. In 1986, I think I was 10 maybe. But I remember seeing the trailer on a VHS of some other movie I had rented. I was in the basement of my grandma's house, and I remember seeing the trailer, and it blew my mind. I was like, I need to see this movie. I need to see it now. And thankfully, it had already been released, I think, on VHS. I could be wrong. Honestly, I don't quite remember, but I do remember when I saw it, it being completely blown away by it and immediately obsessed.
I know that whenever I did see it, there were certain scenes that we're going to get into in a minute that really stuck with me and even to this day upset me. When I just rewatched it, I got upset again.
Yeah. The opening scene, which let's dive into the opening scene.
Yes.
I just want to tell you, I don't know what this says about me as a person, but I think about this scene. I am not lying to you every single day. Every single day.
In what capacity?
I want to know who I'm looking at. What did you say? I want to know who I'm talking to. I think about it every day.
Like in a way, like in a paranoid way, is someone watching me through my window like that?
No. In like I just love the scene so much.
That it just has stuck with you.
It stuck with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's comforting. Weirdly. It's really comforting. It's like an old sweater. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It stirs up those like warm, fuzzy feelings of nostalgia.
Okay.
Yeah. And like horror movies mean so much to me. Yeah. And I just love this movie so much.
Yes, let's dive into the first scene because this is one of them that has really stuck with me in a bad way, I think, even though you just said it like comforts you. But for me, this scene is the opening scene. Okay, so let's just say what it is. We start off with Drew Barrymore.
Yes.
Who at this time was a headliner.
Absolutely.
She was on all of the promotional material for this movie. I think the year before, she had just done Batman Returns, was like a big movie that she had just done. Obviously came to fame in childhood with E.T. and Firestarter and all that.
Yeah.
And
I love her, by the way.
I love Drew Barrymore.
I love her.
Oh my gosh. She seems like she would just be so cool to talk to.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Can you imagine her like in another chair in the middle, just folded up? She would just be like sitting like this, all comfy.
I would love it. I would love it. And you know how like she gets really close to people on her talk show? I'm like, come on, let's get in close. I want to be your friend.
Hold my hand. Let's chat.
Let's do it. Let's talk trauma. I'm into it.
I love her.
Yeah.
But another day we'll have a whole episode about Drew Barrymore and how much we love her and all the movies we love her in. But so her name is Casey in this movie.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I need to go back a little bit. So she is like a headliner. Everyone expects her. I know I expected her to be a final girl.
Absolutely.
In this movie because she's very popular. She's one of the more popular actors at this time. She's on all the promotional material. We open the movie with her.
Yeah.
And I don't think anyone expected her to die in the first, 5 minutes?
I think it's within the first 15 minutes.
Okay.
I could be wrong, but I think the scene in total is 15 minutes.
That makes sense too because this scene does linger.
It's long and drawn out and it builds so beautifully.
Yes.
Okay, do you want to set the stage?
Yes. So Casey is at home alone and she's making popcorn and she gets a phone call on her house phone, her cordless house phone, which also takes me back.
Totally. We definitely had at one point a cordless phone. I don't remember when, but I remember when we got a cordless phone, it was like a really big deal.
Yeah.
Like real big.
So, I mean, I used to get in trouble all the time because I would be talking on it. I would bring one of the cordless phones into my room and then it would die overnight. And that's how my mom knew I was talking all night on the phone.
Oh,
and
you were busted.
I got in trouble. Which is funny because then I hated talking on the phone ever to anyone.
I hate it.
Don't call me.
No, I don't want to talk on the phone.
If this can be a text, do not call me.
I know, except I voice memo you all the time.
No, but I love voice memos. You and Marty Bell both voice text me or voice memo me all the time, and I listen to it like it's a podcast.
That's how I feel about me and my sister voice memo every single day, and I love it. I listen to it like a podcast. I'm like, oh, tell me, how was your day? What's going on? I love it.
So this scene with Casey already could not happen in modern day because if anyone called me and I did not recognize that number, I would never answer it.
I think, I mean, I definitely agree that it would be hard to recreate this in 2024. I thought the new Scream, Scream 5, did a good job of it because I want to say she had a house phone still. So it worked. But I think it would be very difficult to recreate this in this sort of way.
Yeah, for sure. So she gets a phone call, and the first thing that this person says to her is, "Who is this?"
Right.
Already, I'm out.
I agree.
I would have hung up on that person.
I think right away I would have been very uncomfortable. I don't know, though, because it was the 90s.
That's another thing you have to keep in mind. Yeah.
And she lives with her parents. Like, maybe this is one of her parents' like, who knows? Because in the 90s, using the phone was that was how you communicated with people.
Yeah, and Also, they're in the middle of nowhere. That's another thing that's important to mention.
Yeah.
That kind of ties into, we'll find out, like, none of her doors are locked. Things like that. Which, when you watch now, it's easy to be like, oh my gosh, you gotta lock your doors all the time.
Yeah, but at the time,
it was a different time, but also she's in the middle of nowhere, and that is very common for people to leave their cars unlocked and their doors unlocked, and could not be me, but I'm not saying it in a judgmental way. I just grew up in a different area.
No, me too. When I moved from Toronto up north, I was only up north for a very short amount of time, but when I did, everybody left their doors unlocked and the neighbors talked to you, and it was honestly, I couldn't understand what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
Because, same. I grew up in a part of the city that you lock your doors and you don't really talk to a lot of people.
Like,
you know what I mean?
As soon as you walk in your house,
You're
you
locking
lock your
that
door.
Like, both locked. Boom, boom. So he says, who is this? And she says, well, you called me. Like, who are you trying to reach?
Yeah.
And I think she said something to the effect of, like, you got the wrong number.
Yeah, and she's nice about it.
Very nice.
She's like, wrong number, hangs up.
She's super sweet.
Yeah.
He calls her back.
Yes.
And she says something like, he says, oh, well, I called the wrong number. She says, well, why would you call it again?
Right.
Don't worry, take it easy. She hangs up. Mm-hmm. So this guy calls her again.
I'm over it.
And at this point, she kind of thinks that he might be into her. So I honestly wonder if she thinks this is someone from school.
And she was being a little, like, innocently
like
flirtatious.
A little coy, a little like,
Because he asked her, do you have a boyfriend?
Yes.
And she's like,
says,
no. Yeah.
Yeah. So
she's
like,
a high schooler.
Exactly. That's the other thing to remember. She's like 16, 17.
Yeah.
Right? So she's making popcorn and he can hear that and he asks her, like, I don't know why this part always makes me laugh, but he says, what are you making? You're making popcorn? She's like, uh-huh. I don't know why it always cracks me up. She's so thrilled about it. And then he asks her what her favorite scary movie is.
Yes.
She said she doesn't know.
Yeah.
And he's like goading her, right? He's, come on. The voice is amazing, by the way.
Which the voice is Roger Jackson.
Yes. Who
also did the voice, side note, of Mojo Jojo and the Powerpuff Girls.
Oh my God. Yes. He has so many credits. He has so many voice credits. Yeah. It's unreal. And another little tidbit, the cast stayed away from him during the filming of this, and he was actually talking to them on the phones.
On a cell phone?
Yeah. So it wasn't like, in most of the times in movies, when you're on a phone conversation, you're not talking to a person on the phone. Somebody off camera is reading the lines for you.
Right.
So for him to actually be on the other side of these calls, I think makes the scenes like so much more terrifying and probably so much easier to get in character.
Like they were actually on a phone with him?
Yeah. Like he was on the other end.
I think I also read that the cast did not interact with him otherwise.
That's right.
Other than the phone calls.
Yeah.
That's wild to me.
I think it's so cool. And Wes Craven, I guess to get the emotion out of Drew in this scene, was reminding her of some kind of animal cruelty or like some way to evoke like deep emotion from her. And I think it had something to do with animals.
I feel like you really relate to that, especially. I mean, I can imagine as well, but you especially.
What a great way though, because the way that scene escalates.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a bomb ass actor. Like, let's not, no beating around the bush on that. She's fucking awesome. However, this particular scene, her fear comes through so strong.
Yeah. Her emotions for sure.
Yeah.
So eventually we get to the iconic line of what's your favorite scary movie.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
And you mentioned that he's kind of like, come on, tell me what it is. You have to pick one. And what did she say? Halloween?
Yeah. She says something about, she explains to him what it is. Yeah. She says Halloween. She says, oh, the guy that stalks babysitters. Yeah. Which I think is kind of funny.
Because she's being stalked right now.
Yes. From a masked killer.
Yeah.
Insane. Oh, so the writing is just.
Yeah. And
love it.
He wants her to guess his favorite scary movie.
Right.
Right. And she eventually guesses Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yes.
And he's like, I think she says Freddy Krueger, and he's like, yeah, is that the guy with knives for fingers or something like that?
And he's like, I like that movie. It sounds so like weirdly sexual.
Yeah, very creepy.
Yeah.
And Nightmare on Elm Street, of course, also being directed by Wes Craven.
Absolutely.
So we're tying in, we're getting to the meta of it all.
Love it.
There are a lot of horror movie references in this movie, a lot of scenes that were inspired by other horror movies as well.
Yes, yes. Can I tell you something so geeky
Please.
that I did?
Please do.
So I've seen Black Christmas and When a Stranger Calls. Both of them great movies. And the opening scene is inspired by those, but it's also inspired by Black Sabbath, which is an Italian horror. And it's a short, or it's an anthology. And one of them is called The Telephone, which inspired, or I would think so, is influential of When a Stranger Calls,
Yeah.
Black Christmas, and now Scream. You know, I think
Yeah.
that's so cool. So I had to go back and watch it.
Yeah.
It's scary, by the way. It actually still holds up. It's terrifying.
I need to check that out.
Yo, please. Oh my God. We should watch it. Honestly, we should watch it tonight.
I'm down.
It scared the absolute out of me. It really did. Okay.
Maybe I'm not ready to watch it tonight.
It's scary.
So Casey is way too nice and way too talkative to this person. I would have left the phone off the hook at this point
Yeah.
because he keeps calling back. She's like, leave me alone. Eventually he threatens her.
Yeah.
And he's like, if you hang up, I'm going to gut you like a fish.
It's so crazy. And she immediately knows, like, okay. Because I think she tries to, like, stand up to him.
Yeah.
And that backfires. And she says something to the effect of, like, my boyfriend's going to kick it out of you. And he says, well, his name wouldn't happen to be Steve, would it?
Yeah.
And now Steve is tied up in the backyard. She can see him through the glass sliding doors, which, by the way, glass sliding doors scared I never used to be afraid of someone breaking into a glass sliding door until I saw this movie. Still to this day.
It's too big of a window.
It's too big, man. You know how many times we're not getting into it. I don't want to,
Okay.
We're not getting into it. It really does scare me though.
I do just want to say the line that Casey says here before she even sees Steve or knows that he has been kidnapped, because it is a very iconic line in the scene, and her emotion it just escalates here.
Yeah.
Where she's like, my boyfriend will be here any minute, and he's big, and he plays football, and he'll kick the shit out of you. Iconic.
I honestly, AK, I feel like if the roles were reversed, if you were Drew Barrymore, you wouldn't say anything about a boyfriend. You would full on be like, if you step foot in my house, I'll grab this machete and I'll kill you. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
1,000,000%. I would probably be on the roof hiding.
Do you remember? I'm sorry. I feel like we're going to sidetrack so much, but whatever. Do you remember when we went to Santa Monica and we were walking back to the hotel with
my
Rebel
God.
and Penelope?
Yes.
And some guy started jogging down the street toward us.
Yes.
And it was dark. Don't do that. Don't jog toward a group of females, especially, like, just don't do it.
No.
And I went in full, like, I don't know, protective mode, I guess. And I just like puffed up my chest. Do you remember this? Because I feel like you were ahead of us a little bit. So you were kind of like, wait, what just happened?
I didn't see what happened. I saw the aftermath of what
Yes.
happened. I saw him going like, oh, jeez.
Oh, I'm sorry. Penelope was with me. She was standing right next to me.
Yeah.
So I like puffed up my chest. I was like, back the up. Like, for real, turned into savage mode. Because I don't know. It was like a very primal, like, trying to scare this man away. Like, do not approach us like that.
Yeah. I'm glad you did.
I think it was harmless. He just thought he was gonna like run up to us and like, I don't know, say something funny, but
just don't do that.
We're walking down the street in the dark and this man's running at us. That's why I was like, like literally like,
because who knows? What if he was like, I don't know.
you don't know what he's doing.
No.
Exactly. And you just you just react in that moment. And anyway.
Honestly, it doesn't surprise me. I feel safe with you.
Aw, I'm glad. That means a lot to me.
No, I really do.
Sorry, I've just totally lost my place in my notes too. So we're gonna go back a little bit. All
No,
right.
that's totally okay. So Ghostface then says, I want to play a game. If you get it right, I don't know. I think he says you live. If you get it wrong, we don't want to get it wrong. And the first question is, who is the killer in Halloween? And she's like, I don't know. And he's like, come on, it's your favorite movie. Like, how do you not know? Blah, blah, blah. She gets it right. Michael Myers. And then he asks her, who was the killer in Friday the 13th?
Yes.
Now, if we were asked that question,
Right.
we are horror nerds. So we would get that right. I think any horror fan would.
I think my first question would have been which one,
Right.
but she doesn't.
She doesn't. And to be fair, I mean, there's a lot of shit happening. So I understand why she's so scared. She jumps up, Jason, it's Jason. We know that. It's Pamela.
It's Pamela Voorhees in the first one.
Poor Pamela, man. I feel like Pamela had a life. I really do. Did you know me and Brian talk about, my trainer Brian, we talk about
You empathize with Pamela Voorhees on a daily basis.
No, we really do. We talk about Jason's father, Elias. and we've come up with a whole backstory on like how Pamela maybe worked at a pharmacy.
Oh, wow.
Like a local pharmacy. I don't know. We came up with the whole thing. Anyways, let's get back on track. Digress. Sorry.
Yes. She says Jason. She's very, very confident in this answer. He's like, "Oh, sorry, that's not correct." And she's like, "No, I know it's Jason." And he's like, "No, you would know that it was actually his mother."
Yeah.
His voice turns so crazy in these moments.
He sounds so
too.
angry that she got it wrong.
Yeah.
He's like, "You don't know the trivia?" Like,
yeah.
And a chair comes through the window. All hell breaks loose. Steve gets gutted. And
Just casual. Steve gets gutted.
I mean, Steve, you weren't in the movie very long, bud. I feel for you. You're gone.
So he's the first kill?
Yes.
Yeah.
Technically, yes. I guess. I think Sidney's mother is technically the first kill, but we don't know that yet.
That happened, the
year prior.
And can I also just say, before we get too far away from this, that I suck at trivia in general. So even though we're horror nerds, and like that one I would know for sure, especially because I feel like people talk about it a lot. Like, actually, it's Pamela, lately. But if I was put on the spot for trivia, I feel like I would completely up.
No, I would too.
Have you ever seen, I think it's Billy on the Street, where he's running around and he's like, "Name a woman for $1, name a woman." And that girl, it's to a girl. And she's like, and he's like, "Name a woman." And she can't do it.
Yeah.
Because she's put on the spot.
The pressure.
Yeah. So I feel for Casey here.
I do too. I'm not great with trivia, dude. I'm not. Even if I've seen a movie a million times, I have to write it out because my brain just does not retain.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how much I love the movie.
Yeah.
Just doesn't retain.
Also, the whole question of like, the question he gave her, the trick question, is such like, the vibes it gives me is like, actually, it's such like,
right? Like someone on Reddit being like, well, technically, it's just like, okay, guys.
"Oh, you like horror? Well, name 5 movies that were directed by," like, that's what it gives. I'm like, shut the
I cannot stand when people do that. I will not answer you. You don't deserve my response.
For real. Sorry.
Everyone can like what they like. You don't have to be an expert. I certainly am not.
Yes, we don't claim to be. We're just having a good old time.
We
okay?
like having a fun time talking about movies. Okay. So here comes Ghostface. We finally see him. And I do have a little tidbit to add to this. The Ghostface costume that you see in this opening scene, the mask is actually different from the mask of the rest of the movie.
Oh.
So this mask was from the company that made them. I can't remember the name. Maybe like Fun Factory, something like that.
That sounds right.
Yeah, something like that. Basically, they did not have the rights. They didn't have the rights to use that mask.
Oh my gosh.
So basically they, after that one scene that they did, I don't know what happened there. I don't even know how they used it. They had their special effects team create a similar mask.
Yeah.
And because they wouldn't license it to them. Is that not crazy?
That is crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't even realize it was a different mask. And it's interesting that they could create one that was so similar that it still didn't cause issues.
I know. And if you pause it, you can see the difference.
Okay.
You can definitely see it. If you pause at the right moment, when he grabs her and he stabs her in the chest, that second you can...
Okay.
Yes. So Ghostface is in the house and he's chasing her. The popcorn is now on fire. There's smoke. It's very chaotic. She makes it outside. She's doing a good job. She's still got the phone in her hand.
She's fighting.
She is a survivor for sure. She's crawling. And then her parents pull into the driveway.
Yeah.
And this moment is so emotional.
Yes.
Every time I watch it, I cry.
I legit started tearing up watching it again when I watched it last week. This scene is so brutal, and they do such an amazing job really just making you feel in this scene. Everything about it, the score, the emotion from the mother looking for her daughter throughout the house, because they don't know what happened, but I mean, the house is like burning at this point, so they're obviously alarmed.
Oh my God, when she's saying "not my daughter," it's giving me goosebumps.
Ugh.
It is so heartbreaking. And the dad, and Casey sees them, and for a moment she thinks, "I'm gonna be okay, my parents are here." And we all have had that, right? Like that moment when an adult comes and you're like, "Oh my God, this person is gonna help me
or protect me or whatever." Yeah.
Yes. And then they don't.
They can't.
They can't.
Because Ghostface just choked her for a second, and now she can't yell out. And her mother's right there, and she's reaching out to her.
It's heartbreaking.
And the mother can't hear her.
No.
And she's like, "Mom."
And she's got the phone too. So,
which I also wish she would have just clocked him in the head with that giant ass 90s cordless phone.
I know, right?
Not that it would have necessarily helped her in the
Probably
long
not.
run.
No.
But I just,
Yeah.
you just wanted to punch him in the face.
I'm with you on that. And then the father grabs the mother by the shoulders and says, go down to the Mackenzies. Mackenzies were the neighbors in the original Halloween. Laurie tells the kids, go down to the Mackenzies.
Oh.
There's another, as we go through the movie, we'll be pointing out horror movie references that go throughout it. I don't know if I've got them all down on this piece of paper, but from when I was watching it, this is as many as I could pick out.
So the mother also, she gets on the phone. She tries to call. And because Casey has the other phone and it's on, she can hear Casey gurgling, basically. That just
tragic.
gave me chills.
It's tragic.
That legit just gave me chills.
I mean, it's so sad. And so the mother walks out, and by this point, Ghostface has, just mutilated Casey and strung her up by a tree.
Yeah.
It is a horrifying shot.
And the parents find her that way.
I think it's the scariest scene in the entire movie.
Ugh. I actually have chills right now. And she sees who the killer is before he kills her because she rips
takes the
his
mask off.
Yeah. Ugh.
Okay, so I have a question for you.
Okay.
I hope to God everybody has seen this movie. I'm sure you have. Which one do you think it was?
Oh, who was that?
Yeah.
Who was the actual killer?
I have a theory, but who do you think it was?
Hopefully if you haven't seen this movie, just, pause right here and watch it so you don't get any spoilers. But, it's been long enough.
I think so. And this is one of the best horror movies ever, in my opinion. I feel like.
And well known.
Well, very well known, yeah.
I want to say that it was Billy only because he had the cell phone most of the time, it seemed.
Oh, interesting.
But it really could go either way. Which one do you think?
I think it's Stu.
Oh, okay.
Because Stu dated her and she dumped Stu for Steve.
Ooh.
Right? That's his name? Steve?
Steve, yeah. That really could go either way.
Or it was both of them.
Yeah.
Maybe it was both of them. It could have been, right?
Did they ever show that they had two costumes or was it just one?
They only showed one.
They never show like two at the same time?
They didn't, no. But they're different sizes.
Right.
Don't you think if Stu wore Billy's costume, it would be like a dress on him? Matthew Lillard is so tall.
That's true. Or Billy would be like dragging it behind him. It'd be like a long ass nightgown.
It's like Ebenezer Screws coming at you. Sorry, Diddy. Okay. All right. So so the opening scene, we love it. It happens. Now we're introduced to our final girl, Miss Sidney Prescott.
Yes.
I love this entire scene where she's introduced to Billy.
Who is played by Neve Campbell.
Yes. And
Sidney is not Billy. Billy is SKEET.
ULRICH.
Okay, I was going to say, is it ULRICH or ULRICH? I didn't know.
Well, hopefully it's one of those because I don't know. I'm just going to keep calling him SKEET.
I'm going to call him all SKEET. I'm sure he's never heard that before.
I know, right? So Billy Loomis.
Yeah.
As we know, Sam Loomis is from Halloween, but more so Samuel Loomis is Marion Crane's boyfriend from the original Psycho.
Okay.
So it's so funny how there's so many tie-ins because if you think about it, the opening scene is so similar to Psycho, right? Marion Crane, we thought she was going to survive. She was like the girl at the time, and she dies pretty early on. They do the same thing with Drew Barrymore, and now using the last name Loomis is a tie into Halloween and a tie into Psycho.
That just reminded me too. I also remember reading that it was a suggestion by Drew Barrymore that she dies in the first 10 or 15 minutes of the movie.
Whoa!
Instead of her living throughout however long they originally planned.
I mean, I didn't know that.
That she's like, it'd be funny. That sounds like, that is such a pro wrestling thing that I feel like we would do.
Yeah,
like,
right.
You know what? We should actually lose this match. I don't want to win.
Like when our time's cut and we're like, you know what? Just take all our moves. It's okay.
You know what? I'll wrestle for 3 minutes. It's fine.
You know what? I don't have to do any moves. You can do them all. Okay. I'll just bump for you.
Legit. That's the vibes I get. You know what? Just kill me in the first 10 minutes. It's fine.
Okay, can I tell you like a really quick wrestling story?
Yeah,
it's really, really fast.
Please
I feel like you're gonna relate to this. So I worked with Ruby a lot at AEW.
Love Ruby.
She is the best. And one time I was in like a 6-man with her, and I think our time had gotten cut, and I think I was only hitting like 2 moves. And I go, we're calling this match, and it's like getting down to the wire, and literally I go, just take my super kick out. It's fine. It's fine. And she literally grabs me by the shoulders, and she's like, Laura, That is your only move this entire match. We're not cutting the super kick.
That I could hear that in her voice.
Yes, she is a girl's girl, 100%.
Love you, Ruby.
We love her. Okay, anyways, I digress. What else is new?
One of my notes that I wrote down for this scene is which song is the most used in horror movies or thrillers, and why is it Don't Fear the Reaper?
Okay, but let me ask you a question. How fantastic is that cover? And how perfect is it that Billy is the killer and he climbs on top of her while that song is playing?
My next thing that I wrote was, and I'm not mad about it. I love that song.
It's a great song.
I'm hearing it, especially now. I feel like in the past few years, I've heard it in like, it feels like every other horror movie, but I do love the song, so I'm not even mad.
No, you're totally right. You know, the first time I ever heard Don't Fear the Reaper was in the movie The Stoned Age.
Okay.
It's a weird stoner movie. I don't suggest it. But any hoogly boos. Okay, so Billy Loomis climbs through the window and he says, I was watching the TV edited version of The Exorcist and it made me think of you. Basically because she will not have sex with him.
Yeah, because all the good parts were cut out. Sir.
Like, dude,
immediately established himself as an asshole right off the bat.
Like, really?
Also, the nightgown that Neve Campbell is wearing in this scene is comical.
It is so big.
It's like you have to be the epitome of innocence.
Oh,
Picture
so true.
the most innocent nightgown you can imagine, like long sleeve, frilly, white.
She's so cute too.
She is.
She's so cute. Okay, so a couple of important things about this scene. One, Billy's coming through the window, which, by the way, is, I don't know if it's an actual homage, but I feel like it might be to, there's a scene in A Nightmare on Elm Street where, I don't remember the character's name, but Johnny Depp comes through a window. It almost exactly the same. And he looks just like Johnny Depp. So I feel like that had to have been on purpose.
He does look a lot like him. I never thought about that.
Yes. Oh, he's
fine.
Oh, he really is.
Fine.
He is a good-looking dude. I'm just saying. Okay.
He's also aged well. Just so you know.
Oh my. I'm married, guys. Okay, I'm married. So, okay, so he climbs to the window and, you know, they start to kind of make out or whatever. But then her dad hears something and comes knocking on the door. And I love this because they show you two things. One, that her closet door blocks the door coming into her room so she can double lock it, essentially. Yeah. You cannot, it like blocks it. And two, the dad says to her, he kind of explains to her that he's going to be gone for the next couple days. He's leaving first thing in the morning. He's staying at the Hilton. So essentially, and Billy is in there. Yes. And Billy is hearing all of this.
Yes.
Which I know I keep putting over the writing, but it's just written so well.
Yeah, and it's so satisfying when that happens. It's also so funny to me that Neve Campbell is so innocent and prude here as she's portrayed, and then 2 years later, she's going to be in Wild Things pouring champagne on Denise Richards' titties in a threesome. I just want to point that out. Not that these two movies have anything to do with each other.
I love that, though. That is funny. She was very innocent at the time. I think she was in Party of Five.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, so that was really the reason for that scene, I think.
Yes.
Introduce Billy, show that he is pressuring her to have sex with him.
Yes, that she is innocent, that the father is going to be gone for a few days.
Yes, exactly. And that Billy overheard all of it.
Yes.
Very important. Also, that Sidney has a computer. That is also relevant.
Oh, yeah.
Moving forward. I don't really understand how that worked, but...
Yes.
I don't know.
We'll get there. I wrote down, I meant to look into if... We'll get there.
Yes.
So I believe in the next scene, we are going to meet Officer Dewey, right?
Oh my God. Okay, wait, guys. I know that you're listening. Most of you are listening, but if you do decide to watch...
Yeah.
An amazing fan brought this to me.
Aww.
And it is Deputy Dewey's badge.
I was wondering where you got that from.
Is this not this was one of the coolest gifts I ever received. I love Deputy Dewey. Like, he's one of my absolute favorites in this. I love him. And when he, part 6 or part 5, whenever they decided to off him, I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I felt like writing a petition.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing? He is Scream.
Yeah.
They wouldn't survive without Dewey.
Yeah, that was a choice.
Anyways.
I don't know the lore behind it, but
pissed.
But
and love David Arquette.
I was just gonna say, such a likable, friendly guy.
he is honestly one of the nicest people I think I've ever met. Legit. And he also, really quickly, I'm going to plug this because he's the best. He has a documentary, if you guys haven't seen it. It is called...
Is it the wrestling one?
You Cannot Kill David Arquette. Definitely check it out. It's very cool.
So, fun fact, I believe there's a picture of me in that documentary, maybe in like the ending credits or something. There's a picture of me and David Arquette on Prince's motorcycle in Minnesota.
That is so freaking cool.
I'm like, wait, am I saying the right state? Milwaukee? Wisconsin. Wait.
No, I think you're right. Minneapolis. Yeah,
no.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. Oh my God. I'm Canadian. I don't know why I'm like trying to tell you where it is.
It's Prince's bike. It was at a wrestling show that we were both on, and he's my Apollonia on the back of the motorcycle.
I love that. We stan. Okay, David, we love you. Okay, so it's the next day.
Yes.
And we are at the school, and there's reporters everywhere.
Which is fast. That's a fast turnaround.
Absolutely. However, doesn't totally shock me just because I don't know. Was it the 24-hour news cycle at this point? I don't know. I don't know when that started in America.
Yeah, I don't either.
But
even though I was here.
I agree. It is pretty excessive that they do show up there really quickly. And it's very traumatic for Sidney because at around this point, it is revealed that Sidney's mother was murdered the year before.
Yes.
The assailant, Cotton Weary, is now in prison and was convicted based upon her witness testimony.
Right.
And we're introduced to Gale Weathers, who is a reporter.
Played by Courtney Cox.
Courtney Cox. She's amazing, by the way. She's so great in this. And she's the type of reporter that I think people do not appreciate.
Yeah.
She's very aggressive. And she wrote a book about the murder of Sidney's mother and does not think that Cotton Weary is guilty.
Yes.
Sidney obviously disagrees with this. I understand why she hates her.
Right.
We're also introduced to Dewey. We love Dewey.
Yes.
And we're also introduced to
really all the characters here.
Tatum.
Yes.
We love Tatum.
Tatum, played by Rose McGowan.
She is... I love Tatum, but Rose McGowan was like born to play Tatum, man.
And this was like peak Rose McGowan too.
Oh, she was badass.
Yeah.
She was so great in this. And I love Tatum's like whole wardrobe.
And just attitude.
I want to cosplay as Tatum so bad. You know the scene where she's wearing like her shirt says like 69 on it or 60 or something, and then she's wearing like red pants and her hair's in pigtails. I want to cosplay as that. I think it'd be very fun. Anyways, yeah, so we're introduced and Dewey is Tatum's brother.
Yes.
So we find that out.
Yes.
And she calls him Deputy Dewey.
Yes.
Which is actually really funny.
And eventually we're at the fountain scene, which is a very, I don't want to call everything iconic, but to me it's a very memorable scene from that movie.
Yeah.
It's been spoofed a lot.
For sure.
And we meet pretty much all the main players here.
100%. And we kind of get to know their personalities in a really quick, effective way. You kind of get the feel for each person.
Yeah. So we already are sort of introduced to Tatum, to Sidney, to Billy.
Right.
Then we're also introduced to Stu.
I think Stu might be my favorite character.
I love Matthew Lillard.
SLC Punk is up there as one of my favorite movies of all time.
I truly feel like, especially in the end, that it couldn't have been the same without him.
There's no way. He adds so much to Stu.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
And then we're also introduced to Jamie Kennedy's character.
Randy. I love Randy.
Whenever I hear the name Randy, I always hear it in the Family Guy voice where Peter's like, Randy. Just so you know. I just have to let you know that. That's how I hear it in my head. But anyway.
I don't think I've never heard that on Family Guy.
I'm going to have to play that scene for you. It's like one of the cutaway scenes, so it's very brief. But Randy is a horror movie nerd.
Oh, he is. I think we would be friends with Randy.
Randy would have his own horror podcast, for sure.
Oh my God, he'd have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
And he would have like those thumbnails with like the shocked face and like the bold writing. You know what I'm talking about? Like the standard, like, whoa.
Who did this? Who done it?
Yeah, absolutely. That would totally be Randy. And they're having a conversation about the killings, about Casey and Steve, and you really do get a sense for who they all are here. Randy is kind of like they're all sort of saying like, well, where were you last night?
Right.
It's revealed that Stu was dating Casey and that Casey dumped him for Steve, but Tatum thinks that he dumped her for Tatum.
Yeah.
So now I wonder in hindsight if he started dating Tatum to get close to Sidney. Just a thought. I don't know if that's accurate, but I kind of am wondering about
Valid
that.
thought.
And they start asking, she asks, how do you gut someone?
Yeah.
And Stu is very quick to explain to her how you do that. And Billy is kind of looking at him like, can you please shut the up?
Yeah.
Like, what do you want to give it away?
And that kind of goes more into, that kind of plays to your point where you said you thought it might have been Stu that did that first killing. It could have been for that reason, especially since he has all that knowledge.
That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah.
And you can really tell Billy's kind of like, guys. But he does it in a way that's like, I care about my girlfriend. Don't say stuff like that. But in actuality, he's looking at Stu being like, you're going to get us caught if you don't shut your mouth.
Yeah.
You know? And then they all kind of were like joking about it. They're just making like jokes to each other.
Yeah.
But it is such an iconic scene.
Yeah.
It really is. And yeah, I enjoy that scene a lot.
And then they're all sort of talking about going to a party. There's a Halloween party that's going to be happening soon, right?
So not quite yet.
Okay, I might be jumping ahead a little bit.
No. It's okay. It's okay. There is going to be a party, but at this point, they're just kind of discussing the murders, and the principal and the sheriff are interviewing all of the kids at school.
Yeah.
I could be jumping back and forth here. I can't recall exactly, but Sidney's being interviewed.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of starting to learn a little bit about the history of what has gone on in Woodsboro. And later that day, Sidney's going home and she has a conversation with Tatum, and she kind of says, like, can I stay at your house? And Tatum's like, yeah. So she's going to stay with Tatum for the weekend. Mm-hmm. She goes home, she turns on the TV, and the first thing she sees is the news, and they're recounting what happened to her mother a year earlier.
Right. It's almost the 1 year anniversary of that killing.
Exactly.
Which is also important.
And I think this scene does such a good job of, you know, I mean, we talked about this before, like the media, podcasting, when you're talking about someone's family member that was, that died, or that something traumatic happened to them, I don't think you think about the people that actually are seeing this happen and that it actually affected them. And I felt like Sidney can't escape it.
Yeah.
You know, like, how do you heal from that when it's being thrown in your face?
Mm-hmm. Especially when people are saying such terrible things, because were also rumors going around about her mother. I think people were saying like she was fast or things like that.
Yeah, like
exactly.
she was promiscuous and, you know, just terrible things. And I really felt for Sidney in that scene because, you know, gosh, she just got home from school. She's probably scared. Her dad's not home and she can't escape.
Yeah.
Her mother's death. So anyways, Tatum says to her, I'm going to come pick you up around 7 o'clock. Sidney says, okay, I'm going to take a nap. She falls asleep.
Yes. She wakes up and she gets a phone call.
She does. And at first it's Tatum. And it's past 7 and Sidney's kind of like, where the fuck are you? You know, Tatum's like, I'm going to stop at the video store, but I'll be at your house soon.
Tatum said something. I wrote this in my notes. Tatum said, I was thinking Tom Cruise and All the Right Moves. You know, if you pause it just right, you can see his penis. So I had to look into this.
Tell me about it, please.
So you can see a penis in that movie. I didn't even know what that movie was. You can see a penis in that movie. Uh-huh. And Leah Thompson, who's also in that movie, does say that her and Tom Cruise performed a majority of their own nudity in their love scene. However, they also use body doubles. She didn't say this part. I read this in IMDb. That they also use body doubles for the insert shots. So it might not be Tom Cruise's penis that you're seeing.
Oh, interesting.
It might be a
the
body double. But I didn't actually find confirmation either way. But either way, if you pause it right, you will see a penis.
If you're looking to see a penis.
If you really want to see a penis, like there's no other way.
I know.
Nowadays.
Only if you rent. And you have to go to a video store, so good luck.
Yeah.
So the phone rings again. And Sidney thinks that it is Tatum. It's not Tatum.
No.
She doesn't recognize the voice on the other end. Mm-mm. But he asks her what her scary movie is. her favorite scary movie is, she presumes this is Randy.
Yes, because he's the horror buff. He's
Yes.
always talking about horror movies.
Exactly. And we know it's not Randy.
Yeah.
She doesn't know that. So she kind of goes along with it. And I think an important line she says is, I don't watch that. It's always some big-breasted blonde running up the stairs instead of running out the front door.
Yeah.
I love it. It's so the irony of
The
her
whole
saying
meta.
that.
The whole meta of the horror movie plot.
We love it. And so he tells her that he can see her.
Yeah.
So she goes outside, and I love Sidney. She sticks her finger up her nose and asks him what she's doing. First of all, she's brave, man. She just opens up the front door and walks outside.
So she really thinks that this is just Randy.
Just pranking.
She's not threatened.
Especially because they were all talking about everything earlier in the day and whatever. And she says, she goes to hang up, and he says, if you hang up on me, you're going to die just like your mother. Do you want to die, Sidney?
That's so messed up.
And she says, F you.
Yeah.
Hangs up the phone, goes inside, big jump scare, Ghostface is in the house.
Yeah.
I have a question for you.
I feel like I already know what it is. Go ahead.
Do you think that Ghostface wanted to kill her here?
That is not the question I thought you were going to ask. But it's okay. I have a different question later. Oh, that's hard to say. I mean, I was naturally thinking yes, but why do you think maybe not?
The only reason I'm wondering about it is because the finish of the movie, when Billy brings up that it's the anniversary of her mother's death.
Yeah.
I don't know. Billy seems to really enjoy the game, the cat and mouse of the situation. So I wonder if he wasn't planning on killing her here.
Mm-hmm. Just trying to torment her.
Just tormenting her a little bit. I could be wrong, but I don't know. I mean, he does seem aggressive.
So do you think that Ghostface here was Billy?
I go back and forth on this because Billy does come through the window and he drops a cell phone.
Right after.
Right after.
Like way too fast. So I
True.
assumed that was Stu.
Maybe it was. Maybe it was both of them.
And so
maybe it was Stu on her and maybe it was Billy on the phone.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
That's what I imagined.
Yeah.
And that is a good point, that he could have just been, they were just trying to torment her at that point.
Who knows? But she goes running up the stairs because she can't get out the front door.
Yeah.
We love the irony. She runs up the stairs. She runs into her room. And because of that extra closet door,
Yes.
she's able to barricade herself in. And the phone line, I want to say, gets cut, right?
Yeah.
She can't.
She tries to call. She can't.
So she uses her computer and types out 911. I don't know how that's possible without a phone line. However, is it like a different type of not Wi-Fi, but is there a different type of connection at the time?
Well, so the question that I wrote down was, can you really call 911 from your computer? And I Googled it, and just with a quick Google search, I didn't do like extensive research, but with a quick Google search, even now, like in 2024, it's like, not really. Like you can use Skype or maybe Zoom or something, but I don't know what program she would have used in 1996 in order to call. Also, if the phone line's cut, a lot of times it was dial-up that used the phone line, which is why you couldn't use the phone when someone would be on AOL.
That's what I thought too.
But maybe they had multiple phone lines because some houses, and they were rich.
They were, they had money for sure.
They seemed affluent.
I feel like they were living in a good neighborhood.
And a lot of families, come to find out later, I didn't know this as a kid, but would have multiple phone lines so that they could use the telephone and be on the internet at the same time.
Whoa.
But then wouldn't she be able to call? I don't know.
I don't know. However, I will say they also mentioned cloning cell phones multiple times. And I remember when this movie came out, I was like, whoa, can you clone a cell phone? Like, I had no idea. You cannot.
Okay. Like a phone number?
They specifically say multiple times, did the killer clone the phone?
Right, because it does come into play in the end. Or toward the end, that's right.
So we're living in make-believe. So I'm just assuming, it's whatever.
Suspend your disbelief.
I also think when this movie came out, Google was not readily available. The internet, I don't even know if the internet you had full access to the internet yet. You probably did in 96, I don't know. But it's not like now where you can call out something for not being real.
Right.
Which I think is so annoying, by the way. Anyway.
Even though we're breaking down every little detail of this.
I mean, we are,
it's more like a curiosity. Like, I really
Yeah.
wanted to know, like, is this possible? I don't know.
Okay, so Billy comes through the window.
Yes, and he drops a cell phone. This is how uncommon cell phones were in 1996, that the fact that he had a cell phone was so suspicious that he got taken into police custody.
No, for real. And you know what? Like, because they were like bricks back then.
Yes.
They
Imagine
were ginormous.
if you drop a cell phone now, it's like, okay, he dropped his phone.
Yeah, like,
everyone has a phone.
Yeah.
But it's like, you have a cell phone, you're the killer.
No, for sure, for sure. And she pieces it together very quickly.
Yeah.
Like, she's like, so she runs from him, and as she goes out the front door, she opens it up, and Dewey's holding the ghost face mask in front of the door.
Which also, why?
It's so funny.
Maybe he was in the process of knocking and just
holding it, but the best is like she's screaming and he's screaming too. It's so, I mean, David Arquette is such a gem. We love Dewey. Okay, so that was great. We loved that. Moving along, we're at the police station.
Yes, Billy is in custody.
Billy's in custody. He is staring a hole through her.
Oh yeah, because they can see each other.
Yes.
Which also whatever. Okay.
Whatever. It's the 90s. Yeah. And she's giving her statement.
Yes.
And here is where we find out that her dad is not staying at the Hilton. That they've tried to contact him and they can't find a record of him.
Yes. Billy also tells the officers when he's questioned, I think the officer says, like, why do you have a cellular telephone or something like that? And Billy's like, everyone has one. No, they don't.
I know.
Billy, in 1996?
I love it. Billy's like, you idiot. Everybody's got a cell phone.
I mean, maybe in that neighborhood. When did you get your first cell phone?
I think I was in high school.
I was definitely in high school.
Yeah, I was in high school. Did you have a Nokia?
I didn't have a Nokia, but my first friend in high school to get a cell phone had a Nokia. Like the brick, like the little blue
I know what
Nokia
you're talking about.
that had Snake on it.
Yeah. Oh, I did.
Yes.
I had that.
I wanted to play with her cell phone all the time.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to play that game. No, my first one, my mom would not let me get a cell phone until I was 16.
I think that's fair.
She was like, that's an appropriate age because this was all new to her.
Yeah.
This was all new to us.
For sure. Yeah. Like having a cell phone when we were in high school was not as common as it is.
No, now it's
now it's like,
which I also understand.
Yeah,
like,
for safety reasons, I think it's smart to have a cell phone for sure.
But yeah, not everyone had one in 1996 because not everyone had one in 2003.
No,
at least not where I'm from.
No, me too, absolutely. So Sidney's gonna stay at Tatum's house, and on their way out of the station, they run into Gale Weathers. And Gale is like, Sidney, you know, she wants to ask her questions.
Yeah.
And Sidney's like, no, you know what, Gale, she's just doing her job.
Yeah.
I'll go talk to her. I love this scene.
Because Gale also snuck around the building to try to find them, right? They were trying to escape. And Gale, of course, because she's a journalist.
I mean, Gale is like, I'm going to get the story. I don't care how dangerous the situation is.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is. I'm going to get the story. Well, Sidney walks right up to her and acts as if she's going to answer her questions. And I mean, she just sucker punches Gale right in the face.
Because Gale asked her a question, I want to say about her mother or something.
Of course she does. Something like that.
Something to try to get Sydney's attention.
Yes.
And she turns around and just socks her right in the face.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then we cut to Tatum's house, and Tatum is like, I love Tatum. She's such a best friend. She's like, bam, bitch went down.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Sid, super bitch. Like, she is just, I think she's awesome.
She says that, but I also wrote down that it gives off also weird vibes that it's never touched upon. But she also, when she's talking about Billy, she's like, I knew he was too perfect.
Yeah, I mean,
and I was like,
I feel like it's
what do you mean by that?
I think because he's a very good-looking guy.
Yeah, but it's her friend saying that. Also, it's also because Scary Movie spoofed this scene too, and they like exaggerate that scene.
Really?
And what she says. Yeah.
I didn't get that at all.
Handsome, good in bed. Like she just like goes on to exaggerate it, but that's not what I have in my mind. I'm like, she does. And when you watch the original scene, you're like, oh, she does kind of like. He's just too perfect. I think that's a weird thing to say about someone else's boyfriend.
I guess I don't, depending on how close you are with your friend.
I guess.
I don't know. I feel like...
And then maybe it's because she's, like, holding a teddy bear when she's, like... Maybe I'm exaggerating it in my own head, too.
I don't know. I mean, listen, you're interpreting the scene however you're interpreting the scene.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that, but, like, yeah, maybe she does think he's, like, a smoke show.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, he is hot. Can you blame her? Come on.
She's not wrong, but she's wrong.
Yeah, I get you. Okay. So the phone rings and Ghosty's on the line.
Ghosty.
And, you know, he's with Sidney. And she hangs up. Oh, no. Wait a second. Hold on. This is important. Because Ghosty tries to tell her that Billy... He goes, oh, poor Billy boy. Guess you got it wrong again.
Yes.
Trying to cover his own ass.
So now it has to be Stu.
Smart guy. Unless Billy used his one phone call.
That's right.
When he was in prison.
Because he did get one phone call.
Sure did. He says he called his dad, but we know he's full of And then he hangs up. One of my favorite parts of this entire movie, Dewey comes running in. I think he's in his underwear and he's holding his gun.
Yeah.
And he picks up the phone after it's been hung up and he says,
hello. I love that part.
It's so great.
It's like
so
just
great.
a little bit of comic relief.
It's so great. Okay.
I also wrote down a random side note here that Scream 4 was shot partially in Plymouth, Michigan.
Oh.
Which is about like half hour from Detroit. So if you ever want to see where it was shot,
I can
take you there.
I would love that. Yes, I'm into it. I don't remember. This is terrible. I don't remember where, but at some point, Linda Blair makes a cameo as one of the reporters.
Yes.
It's really quick. I don't know if it's here, if it was earlier. I can't recall, but I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
Really neat.
I love that Gale, there's a part where Gale almost seems like she's doing something selfless with really digging into whether or not Cotton Weary is guilty. And she says to her cameraman, I could save a man's life. And you're like, oh, okay, Gale's having like a redemption arc here. And then immediately follows with, you know what that would do for my book sales?
And she's so to Kenny.
She really is.
She calls him a lard ass.
She's so mean.
She's
so rude.
mean. She's mean. I mean, she's something else. Okay.
Poor Kenny.
Poor Kenny. So we're at school and Sidney runs into Billy.
Yes, he's back.
He is such an asshole in this scene. He again is asking her about sex.
Like, I know you just got out of jail, but it's been like one day.
She was attacked last night.
Yeah.
Her mother was murdered the year before. You give her as much time as she needs.
He literally says in this scene, it's been a year. It's about time you've gotten over that. I would lose it. That would, as you love to say, as Laura loves to say, that would send me into orbit.
Like, tell me you've never lost a loved one. You know what I mean?
Wild. You need to get over that. Like, I want to bang already.
Unreal.
You cannot put a timeline on grief. And
He's
especially
horrible.
such a tragic event.
Oh, he sucks. I mean, we know that he sucks anyways.
And then he compares it to his parents getting a divorce.
No, that is outrageous. And I mean, and later in the movie when he tells, like, when the motive is revealed,
yes,
like,
this plays an important part. So it is important that he said that you
Yes.
know his parents got divorced.
absolutely.
But the
However,
fact that he's comparing it to her mother being murdered, assaulted, and then murdered,
okay, take it easy, Billy.
that's who
Take
she
it
should have
easy.
punched in the face.
Agreed, 1,000,000%.
She should have just gone on a punching spree in this movie.
Okay, I do have to say though, the scene does crack me up though, because yeah, like, rightfully so, she takes off. She literally runs into the bathroom.
And the way she runs,
Like, she
is
runs, it's
comical.
it's so dramatic. I know what you're gonna say.
You already know what I'm gonna say, and I
Yes.
have to say it here.
Yes.
That when they spoof this in Scary Movie, Cindy runs she flails her arms so
Yes.
crazy because her
Yes.
name is Cindy instead of Sydney. And you think it's such an exaggeration until you go back and watch the original scene, and you're like, oh, she really wasn't exaggerating that much.
She's running.
I saw an Instagram reel that compared them side by side. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
She was running. She was running. All right, so she's in the bathroom. The two worst people, I think, maybe in film history, okay, that's a bit of exaggeration, but the two meanest girls are in the bathroom talking such about Sidney and her mother.
Yes.
It's awful what she says.
They're accusing Sydney of lying about being attacked. They're accusing her of possibly killing Casey and Steve herself.
Awful.
They call her a slut like her mother. That's a quote. They also randomly say she has a bubble butt boyfriend, which I'm like,
I don't know. Does he have a booty? I never noticed.
I don't notice that he had a butt on him, but I mean, nowadays that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Nothing
the
wrong with
90s.
a butt. Nothing wrong with a little tush.
Oh, the 90s of it all.
Weird. Okay. She's awful. Sydney overhears it. It's terrible. The
Yeah.
girls leave. Sydney walks out. She hears some voices. She hears someone saying Sydney. She looks underneath the bathroom stalls. She doesn't see anything. And then 2 feet appear.
Yes.
They come down from the toilet. And it's Ghostface. And she runs and she avoids him. I have 2 questions about this.
Okay.
My first question is this really Ghostface? Or is this one of the kids f***ing with her?
I kind of thought it was one of the kids f***ing with her because then we do end up seeing kids that were wearing Ghostface masks in the principal's office. The principal, who is also Fonzie.
Amazing. I love him. He's great as the principal.
He really is great.
Yeah.
And he reads them their rights.
Oh, I love it.
Like, he just starts saying things that nowadays I feel like you could never, as a teacher,
Absolutely not.
or principal or whatever to
He
a child.
pulls out scissors and he's like hacking at the masks.
Like
and
telling them he's gonna cut them or something like that.
Unreal.
Like I was like, get him,
I know.
get him.
Same. He expels them.
Yes,
He does.
But
Yeah.
for that reason, I thought maybe that it was them that were messing with Sidney.
I thought so too because we just saw Billy and we saw Stu not long before this, and he's not wearing black pants in either scene.
I did not pick that up, but yeah, that's,
He's wearing different pants.
yeah, I think it very well could be the kids that
I
were
think
messing
so.
with her.
I think so. So there's a curfew. The principal has announced that there's a curfew. There will be no school. The kids got to go home. Sidney says something to the effect of, "This looks like the town that dreaded sundown." It's another reference. We love it.
Yeah,
And at this point, Stu has brought up having a party at his house.
right.
And it's important to note that he's the one that brings it up. And he says to her, it's going to be a small gathering. There's not going to be many of us. And Tatum really wants Sidney to come. She thinks it's going to be good for her, which is such a teenager thing.
Yeah,
Like,
you need to party. That'll help you. Trust me.
I would be locked in my room. I'd stay at the police station.
For
And
real.
I'd be so scared. But Tatum is like pressuring her a little bit. And I think it comes from a good place. You know, I think it really does.
Yeah.
Sidney agrees to do it. Dewey is going to take them to get snacks and stuff like that. And as this is all happening, the principal is alone in the school.
Yes.
And he starts hearing like, you know, noises. I love this scene. You wanted to describe it?
No, you go for it.
Okay. He's kind of like, I thought I heard something. And he opens up his classroom door and he walks into the hall and he looks down the hall and it's Wes Craven dressed very similarly to Freddy Krueger. And he's the janitor.
Yes.
And his name is Fred.
Of course.
I thought that was so great.
Yeah.
So great. Principal goes back into his office. He's like, oh, geez, I'm just freaking myself out. You're not, friend. You are not. Ghostface appears. Bye-bye, principal.
Yeah.
Done.
They also establish at some point here that Gale is starting to flirt with, I don't know why I just said flirt like that. Flirt.
Flirt.
She's starting to flirt with Dewey because she wants to get information. He has the tea. She can tell that he's a novice here and that he is going to likely, you know, give her what she wants.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's such a cute conversation because, she says something like, well, my market is 18 to 25 or something. And he says something to the effect of, like, I was 24 for a whole year. Like,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
flirting. It's very cute. And I just adore Dewey.
It was really cute.
It was so cute. And I remember when I remember watching it as an adult thinking, like, she better not break his heart. Okay, moving along. We're now at the video store with Randy and Stu. One of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. In fact, I'm working on it for acting class. I just love it so much. Really also an important scene. So Randy works at a video store and Stu goes in to see Randy. And the video store is very busy because everybody is like renting horror movies and murder movies and all that stuff because of what's happening. And Stu and Randy have a conversation where Randy is like trying to tell Stu that he thinks Billy's the killer.
Yes.
And Stu, I mean, it's so funny when you watch the movie, you really can see, okay, I can see how these are the killers. Stu tries to tell him, he plants the seed in his head that it's the dad.
Yeah.
Very cleverly done. He's like, oh, well, why can't they find her pops, man? And, I also thought it was really cute. One of the girls in the video store walks over to Randy and is like, what's that movie that Dee Wallace is in? The mom from E.T. And he's like, The Howling, horror. Another horror reference. Frankenstein is playing on the TV. And anyways, Billy overhears this conversation.
Yes.
I love it. Randy has like a freak out. He's like, the cops, if they just watch horror movies, they'd understand. If they watch Prom Night, they'd save time, which is why we have Prom Night displayed here, because Randy brings up Prom Night a few times. He's like, they watch Prom Night, they'd save time, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's a suspect. And everyone in the video store turns and looks at him. Billy overhears this, and Billy immediately grabs Randy and is like, well, maybe it was your movie sick mind, And Randy's like, no, you're right. If this was a horror movie, I'd be a number one suspect.
Right. Which makes you start to think, could it be Randy?
Maybe it is.
He does know a lot about horror movies. He's
Sure does.
obsessed with them, and this feels like a horror movie.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So really important scene, I think.
Yeah.
And something else I wanted to point out, I read a draft of Scream before it was Scream. It was called Scary Movie. Some of the dialogue is a little bit different. But the reason I went down the rabbit hole is I found a YouTube channel and they were discussing the relationship between Stu and Randy. And I will link this in the show notes so you guys can watch it because I did think it was really interesting. Apparently, in the original script, Randy and Stu were like best friends.
Okay.
So that was the connection there. If I'm incorrect, please correct me. But from the information I was gathering, their relationship seemed stronger in the original script.
Okay.
So, which I think made you doubt Stu more.
Okay.
Right? Or I don't know, but the relationship was different. And I thought that was
Yeah.
interesting because you do see in this scene that they're close friends.
Yeah.
They talk to each other. Like, you know, she says, well, he says, do you think Sidney would go out with me? And Matthew Lillard full on is like laughing. And he's like, no.
Yeah.
That's something that you would do to someone you were, you know, if you were friends with them.
Right.
You wouldn't say that to someone that you were just an acquaintance with.
Unless you were just going to bully them. But yeah.
True.
Someone you have rapport with, the way that they
Yeah.
were doing it.
I think so.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm sorry. I kind of went off on that. But I thought
No,
that was
please.
interesting. And if you're interested, I'll link it so you guys can check it out.
Yes.
Anywho.
So we're moving on toward the house party, but before we do, we see a scene with the sheriff, I believe, and Dewey.
Right.
And we find out that the cell phone calls were traced back to Neil Prescott, which is Sidney's father.
What?
And tomorrow is the anniversary of her mother's murder.
What?
So now we're getting somewhere, okay?
Big things. Yeah.
Dots are starting to connect.
They are. They're connecting.
But now we're going to the house party.
We're at the house party. We're at Stu Macher's house.
Yes, and it is not a small gathering.
It is not a small gathering at all. I said the same thing.
Yeah, it is the opposite of where Sidney needs to be in this moment.
Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of people there. Again, going back to the video that I watched, they were talking about how in the original script, which I don't know if this is true or not, that it was only supposed to be our main characters, that it wasn't actually a house party.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm kind of interested in the lore on that. If that's
Yeah.
true or not. If there was a draft of that at some point.
Yeah, I mean, there are enough main characters where it could have been a party with just them.
Right, because he says it's a small gathering.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that changed somewhere down the road. Anyways, something to chew on. But yes, there are a lot of people there.
Yeah.
Not only that, but Gale and Kenny are also in their van. They show up. And Dewey is also there to like keep an eye on the party.
Yes. And Sidney is obviously pissed that Dewey walks in. Actually, Tatum, I think, maybe sees them first.
Yes.
They're both pissed that Dewey walks in with Gale.
Yes.
Also, when you're a teenager, imagine you see this, like, I don't know how old she was supposed to be in the movie, but let's just say mid-20s.
Mid-20s, yeah.
I'm being generous.
Yeah.
If she was in her mid-20s and she walks in, like, to you, when you're in high school, mid-20s, you might as well be an old woman.
Yeah, and it's interesting because some of the kids are like, "Whoa, that's Gale Weathers!" Like,
And they're
then
impressed.
They're impressed.
Yeah.
They are. And it's also important to note that Billy has showed up at the party. Randy says something like, "Who invited Leatherface?" Another horror movie reference. And him and Sidney go upstairs to talk.
Yes.
So Sidney doesn't see Gale enter the party.
Oh, she doesn't.
I don't believe she
So
does. I believe it's Tatum.
It might
that
have been
does.
Tatum then that's like, I think, maybe she grabs her brother. Like, why did you bring her?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's very important to note that Gale sneaks a camera between the VCR and the TV.
Yes.
To get a full shot of the living room.
Right.
I mean, in the 90s, like, way to go, girl.
For real.
Clever.
So she is really doing like top-notch journalism here.
Oh, yeah.
And it's it's basically like you're seeing the POV of if you were the television.
Which is so neat.
Yeah, and Randy is sitting around the television with a bunch of other kids watching a horror movie. I think they're watching one of the Halloweens.
They're watching the original Halloween. They
Yeah.
are. And this scene is fantastic. Okay, so a few things happen at once. Okay. Tatum goes to the garage to get some beer.
Yes.
Stu suggests that she go get beer.
Yes.
She goes to the garage. She goes to the kitchen. There's no beer. She goes to the garage. She's like, ugh. So she starts pulling the beer out. Mm-hmm. And she goes to get in, and the door's locked. She can't get back in the house. She's knocking on the door. Nobody's coming. So then she's like, well, okay, I'll just open the garage and go
Yeah.
through the actual garage door. It starts to rise. Stops. Mm-hmm. She turns around. Ghostface is there.
Yes. And she's the first one that calls him Ghostface in this movie. if I'm not mistaken. When I was watching it back, I was like, oh, that's the first time. She goes, oh, Mr. Ghostface.
I want to be in the sequel.
Yeah.
I love it too because she references I Spit on Your Grave, and she references Casper, which I think is really funny.
She calls him Casper.
She calls him Casper. And he brings out a knife, and that's when she realizes this is not a joke. He cuts her arm. They start fighting. She puts up a great fight. She's throwing beer bottles at him. I mean, like, she is not going down without a fight, and that is totally Tatum.
Yeah.
You know?
She tries to crawl through a doggy door that's in the garage, which I had questions about, but we're just going to go with it. So she tries to crawl through. She can't fit. It's made for like a smaller dog. She's not fitting. And Ghostface decides to get creative here.
Oh my God.
And he starts the garage door and it starts rising. I don't know about 1996 garage doors, but I have an automatic garage door, and if anything even gets close to like the track, it will stop. It completely aborts mission.
I feel like.
So these are the things that I research when I'm watching these movies, because I just get very curious, and I went down a rabbit hole about like 1996 garage doors, and I did read some people saying, but it was Reddit, so like you have to take it with a grain of salt.
Sure.
But I did read some people saying like, no, 1996 or like garage doors back in the day were probably more heavy duty, but still probably couldn't support the weight of a human being. But
yeah, maybe.
We're just going to suspend our disbelief. And Tatum looked very small. Rose McGowan's tiny, from what I understand.
So little, yeah.
And so the garage door keeps rising. She's screaming. No one's hearing.
And to be fair, it is like, the garage is like vibrating.
Yeah.
It's like struggling to lift her up.
Yes. But eventually it drags her all the way up to the top, and it like crushes her head in between the garage and the door. And it's gross.
It is gnarly. And what cool effects.
Yes. Really good.
Oh my God. I love it. It's fantastic. I didn't want her to die at all, though.
No.
I am totally Team Tatum.
Yeah, I wanted her to fight more.
I really did.
But she still did fight a lot.
I loved her, but I wanted her in the sequel.
Yeah.
All right, so rest in peace.
I also,
Tatum.
just side note, read something saying that Rose McGowan maybe alluded to the fact of wanting to be in the next the next Scream as like Tatum's twin sister. I don't know if that's completely valid, but I just read a little rumor about it.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised because she is quoted as saying this was her favorite filming experience.
So, yeah.
She had a blast on the set, so it wouldn't surprise me. I wouldn't want to die.
I've seen crazier things in, storylines, so why not?
Yeah, why not? I don't care. I want Stu to be resurrected. I don't care. I know it's not plausible, but you know what?
It's a movie.
It's a movie, and we're allowed to break the rules.
Yeah. We can make it make sense by, just stretch it a little bit. It's fine.
Can I tell you? Can I tell you something? When I was 13, I was Ghostface for Halloween.
Okay.
And I was the kind of Ghostface that had this little like pump, and you could like pump it and blood would come through the mask.
I think we had that.
So I went trick-or-treating with my girlfriend Shlee, who's the one that I saw Blood Diner with.
Yes.
And every house, not every house, but a lot of houses we went to thought that I was her boyfriend.
Because they just assume it's like some little boy under that mask.
Is this your boyfriend? A couple houses did that. I feel like now no one would say that, but this was like the 90s or like early 2000s.
I remember when I was 12, this old lady refused to give me candy because she said I was too old to trick or treat. Meanwhile, she gave candy to my 12-year-old friend just because she was short.
Were you tall?
Yeah.
Oh.
I was probably as tall as I am now, like 5'9", 5'10". At 12, I don't really know if I was, but I was tall. And she was like, "You're too old to trick or treat."
Ew.
You don't even know how old I am.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like there was no. It was very strange back then. But anyway, they all thought I was a boy. I wish I still had the costume. It was one of my favorite costumes. I think I'm gonna dress up as Ghostface. Why
Do
not?
it.
Just take some pictures of my living room, Okay, so Tatum's dead. Rest in peace. And Gale and Dewey decide to go for a walk.
Yes.
It's a nice night.
They're leaving the van, right? Because Gale was in the van with Randy. Randy is still parked outside the front.
Kenny.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, Kenny, the cameraman.
Yes, he's still chilling in the van.
And he has surveillance like in the van. They're trying not to be noticed, even though they're right in front of the house.
Really right in front of the house.
Didn't even park down the street.
No. So Gale and Dewey go for a walk. At this point, Randy and a bunch of the kids, including Stu, are watching Halloween. And this whole, third act is so brilliant. But they're watching Halloween, and they're talking about Jamie Lee Curtis, and that she's not topless until Trading Spaces, I think is the movie. I could be wrong. And they're all just kind of having this conversation. And Randy brings up the rules.
Yes, this is one of the most famous scenes, I think, of this movie.
It is so iconic. And Stu's like, what are the rules? And Randy's like, you don't know the rules? Like, let me tell you the rules.
The rules to survive a horror movie specifically.
Very, very, very specific.
There are 3 rules.
Rule number 1, you can never have sex. Big no-no. Big no-no. Rule number 2, you can never drink or do drugs. It's a sin. It goes hand in hand with rule number 1.
And I think everyone starts booing.
Everyone's booing and throwing shit at him. And rule number 3, you should never say, I'll be right back. Because you won't be back.
Never under any circumstances say that you will be right back.
And then Stu says, I'm gonna go get another beer. I'll be right back. And Randy's like, you're dead. I'll see you in the kitchen with a knife stuck in you or whatever. Great scene. Mm-hmm. It's an awesome scene. So, but this also tells us a couple of things. Mm-hmm. 1, why is Stu going to get beer when Tatum went to get beer, right? It definitely gives you the impression, it leaves you wondering, did Stu kill her? Is Stu the killer?
Yeah.
He might, you know what I mean? They do a good job of sort of like making you wonder.
Yeah.
If one of them did something.
Right.
We just don't know who. It was obviously Stu, I would say, that killed her.
Yeah.
I mean, because he's so tall. Ghostface in that scene is really tall.
Yeah.
Right?
So Sidney is upstairs, and we see that her and Billy have hooked up.
Yeah. Oh my God. She says something to the effect of like, I wish this was a rom-com or a good porno or something. And she does indeed have sex with Billy. And it breaks my heart.
Because you just know already something's wrong. Even if he wasn't the killer, the way he was acting about her not having sex with him already makes me really want her to not have sex with him.
100%. Like, fellas, anyone, don't pressure. It's terrible. Don't
try
do that.
to coerce people.
Don't do it. Don't do it. So they do the deed, and Sidney asks Billy who his one phone call was when he was in jail.
As she's getting dressed, right?
As she's getting dressed.
Just casually
asks him. She kind of does it in a way that's like jokingly. And I almost wonder if it's that thing of she just did something that she clearly was unsure of for most of the movie.
Yeah.
And then right after she does it, she has like a moment of panic.
Yeah.
You know, like she wants to reassure herself that Billy isn't actually going to harm her.
Like,
do you know what I mean?
I'm sure I didn't just make a giant mistake.
Yeah, like, and I feel like everyone has experienced something to that effect, right? Where like you do something and then you're like, I don't know if that was the right move. I need to reassure myself that that was the right move.
Immediate regret? Is that what you mean?
I don't even know if it's regret as much as it's like, I think just fear.
Yeah.
That you made a mistake.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I don't just mean that with like sleeping with someone. I mean, it could be anything.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of where I think her head goes when she starts asking him about that.
Yeah.
Right? And he says that he called his dad. And she immediately says, no, the sheriff called your dad. And he says, well, I called and he didn't answer. And then Ghostface appears because Billy is kind of like, oh, what, you think I did this? Like, you still think I did this? And she's like, no, no, no. Here comes Ghostface, stabby, stabby, stabby.
To Billy.
To Billy.
Yeah.
Lights out Billy. And now the chase ensues.
Yes.
It's a pretty great chase. And it's even better to know that because we know Stu is under the mask, he's very familiar with this house. It's his house. So he knows where she's trapped.
Yep.
He knows where the exits are.
Yeah.
You know, it's very cat and mouse. She makes her way up to the attic. She's like yelling for help. She climbs out the window. There's Ghosty. She falls onto a boat. Thank God.
Which I imagine would also really hurt.
Oh my God, she has to be very sore. And that's
Yeah.
coming from two wrestlers.
For real.
I mean, there have been times in matches where I've taken such a bad bump, the wind is knocked out of me and
Yeah.
I cannot move. I'm like a baby.
If somebody was like, do you want to take a bump off a roof onto a boat? No.
No.
No, I don't.
I'm not McFoley. I'm not even going to pretend to be, you know? So the boat breaks her fall and she keeps running and she runs to the reporting van.
Yes.
And Kenny lets her in. Mm-hmm. And they're watching the feed.
Yes. And they realize that they're on a delay.
A 30-second delay.
Yes. Because Kenny sees these kids run out of the house and he's like, oh, he's startled and he shuts the door before they see him. But because on his screen, they were still watching the TV.
Right. And the reason the kids have run out of the house is because someone called, Randy picked up, and they told them that the principal was strung up
on the
by
flagpole.
The flagpole or the football, whatever it is. And all these kids are like, yeah, let's go check it out. Like
the worst.
If that were my body,
Oh
I would
my
be
gosh.
horrified.
I'm not saying that it's okay, but I also understand. I do remember how like unempathetic
As a
it
teenager.
was to be a teenager.
Right.
And how like I just remember some kids in my school saying the craziest things to each other.
Agreed.
Like the most diabolical things that are like unforgivable.
No,
but it's like
I
you
agree.
just go for the jugular as a kid.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
Not saying it's okay, but they were definitely just had absolutely no shame or
no
empathy.
sympathy, nothing. They were just little assholes. And who knows? I mean, maybe the principal was stern, right? And like high school
But
kids,
still, yeah.
high school kids, they don't really like authority, right? Like,
Yeah, like, oh, he told us what to do. Now he's dead. Yay. Like, that's
it's
crazy.
Pretty awful, pretty awful. So that's why the house is cleared out.
And Jamie is now, it is Jamie Kennedy, but Randy is now by himself in the living room watching Halloween.
Yes.
So there's a lot going on. We're seeing all these scenes basically like piece by piece. They keep...
I love this scene.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, I have 2 questions for you.
Okay.
This is definitely Stu. Because
It has to
Billy,
be.
Billy's
Yeah.
upstairs pretending to be dead, or who knows what he's doing, because nobody's up there with him. Like, he could just be up there. Who knows what he's doing?
But it looks like he's been stabbed. Or
Yes.
you think that he's been attacked.
100%.
Yeah.
So this is Stu. I did read that both actors were under the hood. That, like, both actors kind of played Ghosty in this scene.
Okay.
So they don't know exactly which one is in the movie, which I think it's Matthew Lillard because he seems really tall.
Oh, so it wasn't like another actor playing Ghostface. It was them. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. And so, although in the new ones, I believe there was a stunt double for the new one.
Okay.
I met him at a con. He was a really cool guy. Really cool guy.
Nice.
But anyways, I digress. Ghosty is over top of Randy, and Randy is watching Halloween, and he's telling Jamie Lee Curtis to turn around. Jamie, turn around.
Which is so funny because his real name is Jamie. And he's saying, behind you, Jamie, behind you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's classic. It's so great. And then Ghosty hears something and turns to the side, and he's about to walk away, but Kenny is watching this on the screen with Sidney, and he's like, you got to get out of there, kid. And God bless Kenny is going to go in there to save him. He opens up the door, and
Ghostface is right there.
Right there, slits his
because
throat.
of the delay.
That's right.
Yeah.
So oh my God, it's so well done. He cuts his throat. Sidney gets away. She's running. She gets away from him. And we cut to Gale and Dewey at one point. They've discovered Sidney's father's abandoned vehicle.
Yes, because while they're on their walk, the kids that are now driving to the principal almost ran them off. Well, they did run them off the road. They had to
Yes.
jump, and they did like a little cute tumble, a little romantic tumble onto each other, and they're like, oh. And then they happen to see in the swamp or whatever it is that
Yes.
Sydney's father's car is right there.
Which I think, again, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching here, but it reminded me of Psycho a little bit. Anyways,
Yeah. I also wanted to look up here while I was watching it back. I was like, were they together at this point? Did they get married here? So I looked it up, and David Arquette was quoted in People magazine in 2010 as saying that they met on Scream 1.
oh,
And then on Scream 2, they were kind of on and off dating. And by Scream 3, they were married.
I love that. Oh my God. I love that so much because they are so cute in this movie. So they discover the car. Sidney's running around. Dewey goes back to the house. Like him and Gale run back to the house because he wants to warn them. Gale runs to the van. Dewey runs in the house. Gale discovers the blood. She's like, what the F? She gets into the van. Randy pops out. She's scared, so she knocks poor Randy
Yeah.
out. She gets in the van, and she's kind of freaking out, and she goes for a ride, and Kenny flops onto her windshield, and her response to it is so funny. Like, she's like, get the
Yeah.
me, or something
Still
like that.
being so rude to Kenny,
Poor
even
Kenny.
in death.
Poor Kenny,
Yeah.
man. Died literally trying to do his job.
Legit. And he was going to try to save Randy.
He was. So she takes off, and Sidney is like yelling in the road, like,
Yeah.
stop, stop, stop. Gale is obviously panicked. She swerves and she hits a tree.
Yes.
So at this point, we don't know if Gale's alive or not. And Sidney is like, I guess I gotta go back to the house.
Yeah.
I'm imagining her thought is I can go to Dewey's like SUV, or maybe Dewey's there. I mean, I think she's looking for Dewey at this point. And Dewey is there.
He's standing.
He is.
And then he falls.
Got a big old knife in his back.
Yeah, he's been stabbed in the back.
So sad.
It's very sad. And it's so funny how many times you think Dewey is going to die throughout this franchise.
It's the best, yeah.
Unfortunately, we already know. Anyway.
I hate it. It makes me so mad.
I know. We already said it, so it's not a spoiler, or it already got spoiled for you. I don't know. But yeah, eventually he does die.
It makes me so angry.
But not for a long time.
No, he's in it for a while.
He's in a lot of the movies.
Honestly, though, I wanted a happier ending for Dewey. I really did. And it really bothers me that he didn't get that. So Dewey seems to die. Okay, so there's a whole chase scene. Ghosty's after her. She gets in the car. Ghosty, the scene where she's in the car and the trunk opens up is such a cool shot.
Yeah, she's in the police car, right?
Yes, and
Yeah.
the trunk slowly, it's so cool. Anyway, she gets away from him, and as she's running into the house, Randy and Stu, which, gosh darn, he changed quick,
Yeah.
come running at her, and Randy is like pleading with Sidney.
And she has a gun on both of them now.
She does, because she grabbed it from Dewey. And Randy's like pleading with her, and then here comes Stu, and Stu's pleading with her, and they're kind of doing a Spider-Man pointing the fingers
Yeah.
at each other.
It was him. No, he's the killer. No, he's the killer. Yeah.
And I do have to wonder. I know Randy has seen Tatum. He saw Tatum that she's dead.
Sidney has two at this point.
Yes. I wonder what the interaction was between Stu and Randy before this happened, because Randy is convinced that Stu's the killer.
Yes.
So he must have seen something. And there's like that part of me that wants to go like, did he see him getting changed? Did
I
he
was just
see
gonna
him-
say, yeah.
Right? Like,
I mean, he got changed so fast, you would think someone would have seen him.
yes. Did he try to kill Randy? Did he go after Randy? Who knows, right?
Right.
But I just think that's kind of fun to like speculate on.
Yeah.
She says, "F you both."
She slams the door on both of them.
Would have done the same thing.
Yeah.
Every man for himself.
Because what do you do at that point?
You can't
don't
trust
know.
anyone. You
No.
cannot trust anyone. And now you've seen people die in front of you.
Yeah.
You know
and
what I
now,
mean?
unfortunately, she's locked in this house where Billy starts stumbling down the stairs,
Oh my God, yeah.
looking like he's bleeding.
Great scene. Great scene. Blood all over him. She's like, oh my God, you're alive.
Yeah.
He convinces her to give him the gun.
Yes. How? Ugh.
And she's freaking out. And he opens the door for Randy.
Yes.
He lets Randy come in the house. And Randy says, Stu's gone mad.
Yes. He's gone mad.
And Billy turns and looks at him and says, we all go a little mad sometimes. Kapow.
Yep. And then even quotes, doesn't he say Anthony Perkins psycho?
Yes, he
Yeah.
does. And then, in what has to be one of the sexiest moments in horror
this
history.
is not where I thought this was going.
I don't know what it is about this scene, but he licks his fingers.
Oh, well, I mean, I can tell you what it is then.
But it's like blood, so I don't know.
But
But
not.
anyway.
He says what it is.
Yes, he licks his fingers and says, corn syrup. It's what they used in Carrie.
For the pig's blood, yeah.
Love it. Love it.
And you're like,
obviously another horror tie-in, and I'm like, yes, talk to me. Tell me more about Carrie, baby.
tell me more about corn syrup.
Love it. Blood, I'm in. So obviously now we know Billy is a killer.
Yes.
Sidney runs to Stu.
Who is now stumbling in from like the kitchen or something?
Yes,
Or-
he comes
yeah.
from like another part of the house. And she's crying and she's holding his chest. And it's just very obvious that Stu is also a bad guy.
And then he delivers another one of the famous lines from this movie, "Surprise, Sidney," with the voice changer.
It's so, this whole third act is just, oh, I love it so much. I just love it. And so now we're kind of getting the reveal, right? Like they're breaking down to Sidney, basically their whole fucking plan.
They do the whole typical, which was it typical at this point, or did it become typical after this point of the killer's revealing their entire plan.
Yeah, like, I don't know if that, I feel like, I'm not sure. I don't even want to say because I'm not sure, but
I was wondering, I'm like, was this already the stereotype? Because they really tell her everything.
they are like, strap in, girl. I mean, if it was nowadays and someone did that, I'd be like, well, I've already recorded this whole conversation. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but anyways, they're like, Billy explains to her that her mother slept with his father, and that's the reason that his mother abandoned them.
Yes, so
that's his motive.
That's why his parents got divorced. They also confirm that not only did they frame Cotton Weary, but that they also were the ones who murdered her mother.
Yes, exactly. And Stu doesn't really have much of a reason for this. Like,
No, he's definitely the lackey. Billy is the brains, and he is directing Stu because he's the more aggressive one and yelling at Stu, and Stu's like, oh, like throughout the rest of this movie.
I mean, Matthew Lillard is such a gem when so they start stabbing each other because basically they want to look like the sole survivors, and they bring out Sidney's dad who's like bound and gagged, and they take his cell phone and they're like, well, we cloned the cell phone. It was really easy, and basically they're framing Sidney's father.
Yeah.
And they start stabbing each other. And Billy is like, oh my God, aggressively stabbing Stu.
Yes.
Like,
Stu's like, you're making me a little woozy.
like, it's obvious to me that Billy was just planning on offing Stu.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think Billy's only worrying about Billy.
Yeah.
You know?
I also firmly believe that what made this scene so iconic is how unhinged Matthew Lillard was.
I mean, both of them do
Yeah.
it in such a way that is so convincing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so well done.
Matthew Lillard is like spitting all over the place.
He is. He's so committed to it. They definitely reference some more horror movies at this point, and just movies in general. Billy is clearly unwell.
Yes.
And he says something to the effect of like, movies don't kill people, or movies don't create psychos, movies make psychos more creative, or something to that effect.
So they're going to kill Sidney, they're going to kill the father, they're going to pretend like they look like victims, and they're going to frame the father for all of this is their plan. And Billy tells Stu, go get the gun.
Okay, wait, but before he does, you know what I think is so funny? Billy just hauls off on Stu and he's stabbing him, but then when he gives the knife to Stu, he clearly says to him, remember how I showed you to the right or whatever, not too deep, because he clearly knows that Stu is like not the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so funny to me, and poor Stu is like just bleeding.
He's bleeding out, basically.
He's dying.
He's dying.
Okay, so you're right. So they got the gun.
Yes. So Billy tells Stu, go look for the gun, and the gun is gone.
And I love, like, Billy's like holding the gun and he's like kind of like scratching his head with it, and he comes across as so psychotic in this scene.
Yeah.
Which he kind of seemed crazy the whole movie, but he's such a great actor. Like, it's so creepily subtle throughout the whole film that when it gets to this point, and then when the gun goes missing, I mean, his response to that is
he is livid.
He is so pissed, and Gale Weathers shows up and she tries to shoot them, but the safety's on.
I love this scene too because of all people, first of all, Gale is coming to the rescue.
And her quote is fantastic.
I didn't write it down, so you're gonna have to tell me.
I don't know verbatim, but it's something to the effect of like, reporter shows up and saves the day.
Oh, of course.
And Sidney's like, I like that story or whatever.
Yes. And her hand is shaking during the scene too, which I thought was a nice touch because
Love it.
why would she know how to handle this gun and just come in all confidently?
And be so scared.
Right.
But she's also a bad bitch.
But unfortunately, like you said, the safety is on.
Oh, and before Billy says, I thought you said she was dead, and Stu goes, yeah, she looked dead. She still does. Because, remember?
I remember that. I didn't write it down, but I do remember that because I was like, damn, why you gotta do her like that?
I know, because he saw her in the van.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that cracked me up. Okay, sorry, go ahead. So Billy, yes.
The safety is on. They're able to knock her out.
Right, and right as Billy's about to shoot, Stu notices that Sidney
is
and
gone.
the father are gone.
Yes.
So it stops Billy in his tracks, and now you really see him.
Which I am surprised. Like, Gale's really lucky that they didn't just shoot her there anyway. That they were that distracted that they didn't just like take care of that and then go look for Sidney.
I think it goes to show how immature they are.
Yes.
Because they are kids.
Yeah.
These are kids.
Yeah, they are supposed to be high schoolers.
And they're unhinged.
Yes.
Like, Billy starts tearing up the living room.
Oh my gosh.
And the phone starts ringing, and Billy picks it up, and it's ghosty. It's ghosty.
Yes.
But no, it's actually Sidney, and she
Yes.
tells them that she called the police.
They're also both hurting really bad.
Oh yeah,
Like they're
Stu
both bleeding
especially.
out. Yes. And they're not really as physically capable anymore. So they're like trying to like go through the house, but they're stumbling and they're weak.
Yes.
Especially Stu. He's hurting more than Billy.
Stu gets on the phone and he's like, "Did you really call the police?" And she goes, "You're right, I did."
Yeah.
He goes, "My mom and dad are gonna be so mad."
Also, I wrote down because this made me laugh. Billy gets so mad. And he throws the phone, but he throws it off camera, so you just see Stu sitting there, and the phone hits him in the back of the head. And I almost wonder if that just happened and they just went with it. He's like, "You hit me with the phone." It's so funny. He's like drooling.
That scene is so funny because it's such an intense scene, and that brings so much, comedic energy to it, and such an intense moment. And Matthew Lillard, man, he's just, dude, he's the best. That's
So
funny.
Billy is like going through the house. He's
nuts.
rabid. He's pissed.
Dude.
Which I understand. Like his whole plan is about to.
When he calls her a bitch,
Yeah.
he says it with so much venom.
There's so much passion in his voice.
He's so good.
And he's going through the house, and eventually he like opens a closet, and out comes Ghostface, impales him with an umbrella.
Amazing.
Which also I was like, how the hell did you change that fast?
That is-
like the amount of speed that people were changing in this movie, and I'm like, whatever. I'm not even gonna get too. I'm not gonna think too hard into
to be
it.
fair, it is Velcro because she like Velcros it
Yeah,
off.
that's
So maybe
true.
she's I don't know, who knows.
But I'm just picturing like you finally escape. I'd be panicking.
Me too.
But also
Not Sidney.
I do really enjoy the psychological warfare because they've been torturing her mentally this entire movie.
I feel like this point, I agree. I feel like this point, Sydney's just like, you know what? They killed my mother.
Yeah.
They tried to frame and kill my father. Mm-hmm. They've killed my friends. If I'm
Yeah.
going down, I'm going
Yeah.
down with a fight, and I'm going to take them out.
Yeah, I
on the
feel
way.
like at that point your fight or flight has already kicked in, and
Yeah.
obviously hers is fight.
Yeah.
So she's like, I really don't give a.
No, exactly. I mean, she is the ultimate final girl.
Yeah, she really is.
We stand. Okay, so she impales him.
She impales him. She gets into a tumble with Stu. They're fighting.
Yeah.
And eventually that leads to her pushing a full ass 90s television on his head.
I'm like, that was awesome. I'm convinced he'll come back to life, though. Please bring him back. You resurrect him somehow. I don't care.
You know, we didn't see his smashed head, right?
I mean, maybe the electrocution just,
Maybe the glass broke in a way that it like
protected his head from the
Yeah,
electrocution.
Exactly. It wasn't like a piano falling on his head. I don't know. I was thinking of something maybe more dense. Like a cartoon. Because I almost said an anvil. And then I was like, no, that's silly. What about a piano?
Imagine Sidney comes running from one of the bedrooms and just like pushing him.
If he comes back, can you please kill him with the piano,
Oh
though?
my god, I'm just crying. I'm crying. Okay.
Okay, so Stu, television on his head. We're
Yeah.
presuming that he's dead. Billy attacks Sidney again. He ends up getting on top of her.
Uh-huh.
And she digs her finger into one of his wounds to kind of like get him off. They're tussling, and then he gets the upper hand. And I feel like he's very like extended. Like maybe he's gonna stab her with something. I just don't remember what.
Uh-huh.
And then he gets shot because Gale comes back.
And doesn't Gale say something to the effect of like, remember to take the safety off that time, asshole, or something like that?
Yes. And now he's down, and now Randy comes back. Randy's now in the scene. He's
Yeah,
good. He's alive.
Yeah.
And then he says, this is the moment when the supposedly dead killer comes back for one last scare.
Did he already say, I'm so happy I'm a virgin? Because there's a
He would
funny
have said
line.
it. He would have said it before this.
There's like a funny line where he's like, I've never been so happy to be a virgin. I
because
don't know,
he
it
survives.
pops me.
Yeah.
Pops me every
I think
time.
it was right before he says this.
Yeah.
Like, this is where one last scare, which, of course, Billy then does pop up for one last scare and gets shot in the head this time.
I mean, Sidney is like, she not in my movie. Boom.
Yeah. Oh, yes, by Sidney this time. So Gale shoots him off of Sidney. Sidney gets the headshot. Bitch.
I mean,
that's for killing my mother.
And you know, to drive Sidney to that, I think says a lot, because at the beginning of the movie, she's so innocent.
Yeah.
And she's and to push her to the point where now she's shooting someone in the head.
The contrast from the beginning of the movie to the end is stark.
Wild. I love this movie so much. It's definitely one of my favorite movies ever. It really just, it's so great. The end of the movie where, they're pulling out and you're seeing like Dewey is getting taken away in an ambulance.
So he's alive and we're like, yeah.
The music is playing. I mean, this movie has a great score.
It ends with Gale going live with her eyewitness account live at the scene, which I'm like, what a worker. She is going to work. She just went through all this and she's like, we're going live.
Like a full-blown worker. Like that is, I mean, she's not just doing double duty.
Yeah.
Like I'm trying to think of somebody, a character in WWF from like many years ago that would show up in like multiple segments.
Oh my gosh, like Mick Foley.
Like,
as
right.
3 different characters.
Or like you would just have like, I don't know, off the top of my head I can't think of something, but she is like, I'm gonna get this story. Yeah. I don't care that I've been in a car accident. I've been knocked out.
Yeah. She is like what nowadays would be considered a social media influencer or like a Twitch streamer, because she went through all that and she's like, we're going live. I don't care. We're live at the scene of a murder. We're going live. And one question I did have at the end was, how did she replace Kenny that fast?
Oh man, because she doesn't care. She probably honestly handed the camera off to like a bystander.
The next person. I'm like,
the EMT shows up and she's like, no, I don't care that this person's hurt.
All you have to do is hold this camera steady.
Just press record.
Okay, and just aim it on me. Because it's been like 5 hours, the majority of which she was trying to avoid being murdered. So.
Yeah, no, very true. Oh God, this movie it just hits on so many levels.
And it inspired so many movies to come.
Oh my God. It really did like lay the groundwork for, I mean, I love whodunits. My favorite movie of all time is Clue. I've said this many times. I love a whodunit. Scream is up there as one of my favorites as well.
Whodunits, and then also meta movies.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So good. Okay, a couple little extra tidbits that I think are kind of fun. Remember I was saying that Julie Plec and Kevin Williamson were the writers of the Vampire Diaries. Julie Plec was Wes Craven's assistant, and she got the script, and she was very adamant that Wes had to read it. So had she not been so adamant, would Wes have read it, and would he have directed it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, would it have been directed by someone else, if at all? And like, how would that have changed everything?
And then many years later, for Kevin Williamson and Julie Plec to write the Vampire Diaries together. And I believe they also wrote Dawson's Creek. I think they were the head writers on Dawson's Creek as well. But Kevin Williamson also wrote I Know What You Did Last Summer. I believe he wrote or was a creator of the show The Following.
That's so funny. I just had the thought when you said Dawson's Creek, I'm like, oh, he just loves writing people coming through windows. Like,
right.
That's just
Right.
Yeah.
What was his name? Pacey and Dawson?
I don't even know.
And also he wrote Teaching Mrs. Tingle.
I don't know that.
Oh, that's a fun one. Oh, we should watch that one. That was a fun one. It's another 90s.
Okay.
He also wrote Scream 1 and 2 and 4. He did not write 3. If you listen to Postmortem, you'll get a better understanding of what happened, but it was pretty ugly, the situation with that.
Okay.
But he was a consult on part 5 and 6.
Okay.
That the writers of part 5 and 6 were really inclusive with him.
I love that.
I know.
Yeah.
It just I just adore him. I think he's the best. Anyway.
Why wouldn't you want to do that? Why wouldn't you want to get the original writer on deck?
No, I'm with you 100%. I'm looking through my notes to see if we have any other. Oh, I have another one that I think is a fun one. I love how I'm like, story time. At the end of the movie, did you notice the credits at the very end where it says special thanks?
No.
Okay. So right at the end of the movie, I never noticed this before, honestly. Maybe I did, but I don't remember. We went to the drive-in to see Scream actually last week. Thursday Night Terrors is I mean, I could go on and on. I'll link it. Okay, I'll link Thursday Night Terrors. But Peter from the theater, he's the best. Anyways, we went to the drive-in to see Scream. I was like in tears watching it because I've never seen it like that.
Like that, yeah.
But anyways, at the end of the movie, in the special thanks section, it says, "No thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City School District Governing Board."
Okay.
And it's in like big letters.
Okay.
So apparently they were scheduled to shoot at that school.
Okay.
And right coming close to the shooting date, the board read the script and they nixed it.
Oh.
Like very last minute.
They didn't want them to shoot there.
No, because the language in the movie was too, I don't know.
But like right before they were about to shoot?
Yes. And so in the special thanks, big bold letters.
No thanks to you. I love the level of petty.
I love it too. Okay, a couple more, little more.
Yeah.
Okay. Molly Ringwald was offered the part of Sidney. She turned it down. She was like 27 at the time, and she was like, I don't want to play a high schooler.
Oh my gosh.
Could you imagine how different it would have been?
I love fun facts like that and also hate them because I feel bad if that person looks back on it with regret, you know?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't picture anyone else as Sidney,
Of course not.
right? And then just like a couple of like, this is like a little one. The sheriff in this movie was also a cop in Nightmare on Elm Street. And also, Stu's house was an actual house.
Okay.
So they actually shot at a house. Now, I don't know if all the interior they might have been sets at one point, but it was, Stu's house was an actual house.
Okay.
Which, I don't know about you guys, I personally enjoy when movies are actually shot in real places and it's not on a green screen.
Yeah.
Or,
yeah. Definitely when it's in place of a green screen.
Yeah, or like when it's like, you can tell that they're actually at a real place.
It's not like they're at a kitchen counter and it's a piece of cardboard that's like about to crumble. That's not like a shot at anything. I don't know why that was like the first example.
I totally get what you mean.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm so glad we covered Scream.
I'm so glad we finally did it. And I know this episode's probably long, but you know what? That's okay.
It's a great movie. How could we cut any scenes out of this talking about it? Because every scene is important.
And I told you before we recorded this one that I felt pressure doing Scream because up to this point we've been covering more, I would say, obscure movies, more obscure than Scream.
Yes.
And I felt pressure to cover this one because I'm sure it's been covered so many times before.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that we finally did it.
I know, it's such a big movie, and it's so successful, and it has so many fans that there was that sense of pressure because what more could we say about it that hasn't already been said, except that we love it.
Yeah, and
you know?
there's so much to talk about.
There's so much.
Naturally, this is going to be longer, but we're only making it longer by me talking about how long it is. So make sure you're following our social media. We have Instagram, we have TikTok, we have YouTube at Chainsaw Girls Pod. We also have a Gmail.
ChainsawGirlsPod@gmail.com. And don't forget, if you want to come hang with us on October 20th, grab your tickets. We'll have it in the show notes. The Lost Boys.
Yes, if you are even close to Buffalo, New York, or just want to travel, come hang out with us.
We're going to be hanging with everybody. This is like a very loose, cool, fun hangout.
It's an intimate setting, too.
It's super intimate. It only holds 60, and it's a really cool theater.
Yes.
You guys will love it. We would love to see you. Eat some popcorn with us, watch Lost Boys, and... Okay, bye.